Lady Athena Galford stood at the foremost pew of the Tears Hand Cathedral, pondering her observations during her priestly duties. Her flock visited her sermons regularly in light of the recent happenings in the Kingdom of Lordaeron. A mysterious plague held the land in a vice of uncertain paranoia, turning its victims into half-dead drones, undoubtedly a fate worse than death. If only their faith in the light had been strong enough. If only they were more like her husband. A rather boring pencil pusher to be sure, but with a level of devotion to match his rigid work as an archivist. As the first of the faithful trudged into the cathedral, still gripped by a morning haze, Athena took her place at the lectern overlooking the pristine hall. Behind the citizens' tired eyes, she saw the dark cloud of doubt lingering over their souls. Weakness. A weakness she knew just how to expunge from their frail forms. She began preaching to them the glory of the holy light, and how it and its faithful would see the kingdom through the time of darkness. They had heard her rhetoric many times before, and still she could see the doubt fade from their expressions with each echoing crescendo of her sermon. The citizens left the cathedral to continue their day with their faith restored, but as always, Athena knew they would be back, their faith in no better shape than the day they last entered her domain. If only she could better convince them of the light's everlasting glory, and that its mere existence could grant them the hope they needed to do their duty. But she feared that a permanent solution to her people's lack of faith may never come to her. That is when she noticed an elderly man approaching her, a cold grin etched into his decrepit features. He introduced himself to her as Kel'Thuzad and complimented her skill in persuasion. Thinking this to be an old faithful in need of comforting words, she offered him a chair beside the lectern, but Kel'Thuzad politely declined and said that he shared her disappointment in her own flock. He then confided in her that he had the solution to her worries and asked to be escorted to the tombs of the light's fallen champions. Wary of this strange request but intrigued nonetheless, she agreed. After all, how was an old man like Kel'Thuzad supposed to be capable of somehow desecrating the burial sites? Perhaps he had known one of the champions in life. Arriving in the mouldy stone dungeon lined with yet undamaged coffins in the walls, Kel'Thuzad told Athena that he had received a vision from the light and had been tasked with showing her the answer to her worries. Ironically doubtful, she calmly said that she believed him and asked him to show her. He then turned to one of the coffins and started chanting, unnerving Athena somewhat. The old man's hands stretched out toward the coffin, shooting at it something she couldn't make out in the darkness. Then, the last thing she expected to happen forced its way into her reality. A skeletal hand heaved open the lid of the coffin, and there the remains of a fallen champion of the light now sat, its skull fixed in a deathly stare at Athena. By the light, it was a miracle. The fallen champion had been granted a second chance to continue its service to king and country. She fell to her knees and threw up a silent prayer to the light, thanking it to be in the presence of one of its chosen vessels. Kel'Thuzad put a hand on her shoulder, telling her that the light delivers gifts. First, he gave her a vase-shaped trinket called a phylactery and commanded her to hide it somewhere no one would ever find it. With reverence, she said she would sink it to the bottom of Lake Melredar, south of Corin's Crossing, earning a slight nod of approval from Kel'Thuzad. Secondly, he produced a staff calling it Nibelung, and advised her that this would be the tool she would use to ensure the unwavering and final faith of the people in the light and its newly formed order, the Cult of the Damned, damned to eternal service in the light's grace to its worshippers across the known world. Thus, Athena knew what she had to do. On her walk to the lake, she never stopped pondering her choice of words for next morning's sermon. She would see to it that her flock would never forget their faith again. Nibelung seemed to be tugging at her soul with a cold and callous grip, but Athena knew it simply as another test of her own faith, and as ever, she would not be found wanting. The morning finally arrived, as did the churchgoers. The phylactery was at the bottom of Lake Melredar. Everything was in place. She need only deliver the death stroke to her people's uncertainty, and she did so with merciless gusto. She sensed they were enthralled by her booming decrees and praises to the light and its venerable new cult, unable to look away despite the fear in their expressions. She knew that fear would soon be banished, as would any doubts in the light still left in these weaklings. A younger woman in the back row, the botanist Fairlina, jumped up from her pew and ran out the door. Perhaps these imbeciles required more direct proof of her preachings. Athena raised Nibelung over her head, her vehement prayers echoing through the cathedral, and rays of golden splendor showered over the churchgoers. Now they would finally see the truth. But why then were they all screaming, calling her a witch, and exclaiming black magic to have been used? Can't they see the single greatest proof of their higher power answering their prayers? A group of armored soldiers rushed towards the lectern, their shields raised to ward off the golden light. Miserable wretches! They would willingly defy the bringer of their own salvation. Even as Athena was tackled to the ground and a sword was rammed into her gut, she ranted and raved to her dying breath, cursing humanity for its blindness and affirming that they did not deserve hers and the light's blessings, until through blood-spewing hacks, her tirade was reduced to a deathly whisper.